Hi, Mrs. Cooper. Why SME4LABOUR is important for your party?
It's really important because we know that small businesses are the real lifeblood of the British economy. So many people involved, more and more people becoming self-employed. It's also where a lot of the new ideas and the jobs of the future are being generated. So we want to be the party that's standing up for small businesses, that's celebrating the diversity of all the businesses across Britain and making sure that that's part of what Labour stands for.
Small and medium-sized businesses are the backbone of every community. I represent a seat in Doncaster in South Yorkshire. Now, when you take out the hospital, the local authority, and I have 3 prisons, big public service employers, actually most people in Doncaster work for a small or medium-sized business. And I think sometimes, you know, in the way the media portray business in this country, that gets lost. And one of the great things I've found as an MP is working with the businesses in my community, how committed they are to helping their community. They're not looking to, you know, if someone gives them a better offer, move somewhere else. They're embedded, they're part of the community in which they run their business. And I think in many respects, we have a problem in Britain that we don't really have an up-to-date conversation about where people work today and where they're going to work in the future. And I think the launch of SME4LABOUR can help with that.
Well, there are 5 million small businesses in this country and employing fewer than 10 people. And I used to run a business myself, and I know that they are the backbone of the economy. They're at the heart of many of our communities. The people who run them are fundamental to the success of this country, and they face many of the same challenges that people in all walks of life face. So, you know, Labour wants to be on the side, Labour is on the side of the ordinary working people of this country, but we also are a pro-business party. So we want to be pro-business and pro-Labour, pro-worker. And the best way of doing that is working with those millions of business people who are trying to run their own firm, make a living, provide for their families, grow their businesses, create jobs and contribute to making this country great. And it's absolutely the right thing for Labour to be right there at the heart of what they do, to work with them and to help and encourage them to do the right thing and to help us to deliver a strong economy with lots of high quality, well paid jobs.
Well, it's really important for the Labour Party to engage with people who are creating wealth in the country, people who are starting small businesses. We know, even from the figures here, that a lot of the small and medium-sized enterprises make up the bulk of employment opportunities. They create jobs, they're a vibrant part of the economy, and if we want a prosperous society which keeps developing and moving on, we have to listen to what small and medium-sized enterprises need so that they can flourish, and that's why I'm so happy to see the SME4LABOUR as being organised and getting going.
Owners in the room, something I used to do before I became an MP, so I believe very passionately in the subject and in building very strong relationships between the Labour Party and the small business community. We've got a significant and growing number of parliamentarians already in the room, a number of whom I can see, so mingle and introduce yourselves to them and they to you. And at about 7:30 we're being joined by Jeremy Corbyn and John McDonnell, he says, hoping that these promises I'm making won't be broken. Angela Eagle will also be joining us. So we've got 3 members of the Shadow Cabinet to talk to you, and at that point we will have the opportunity to hear from Ibrahim as well, who's going to tell us about just why it's so important that we have SME4LABOUR, the brilliant work he's done in setting it up, not just in tonight's event, which really did take quite a bit of organising, I can say, having gone through it with him, the difficulties of getting in here and getting this marvellous refreshments on for everybody as well. So enjoy the evening, introduce yourselves, discuss, drink, eat, be merry, and in about 25 minutes time we'll have some slightly longer contributions. Thank you.
And can I also say that I hadn't realised that this would be the best way that I've come across so far today of heating a room in the Palace of Westminster. It's cold out there and all our offices are really cold and the heating is really not up to it when you're in an office. And so clearly having an SME for Labour event is the way to warm the cockles of our heart in Parliament. So thank you all for that. And can I say that even as I walked into the room I could sense the level of vibrancy and interest at this reception, and I think that says a lot about the potential that we have as a political party so far untapped to reach out to small and medium-sized business, to reach out to those people who are self-employed and say, actually, Labour is your party, we want to hear from you, we want to help you craft our policies so that we can build a prosperous economy for the 21st century. And we know, not because only that we've read all of the statistics in the display behind me, just how important the contribution of small and medium-sized enterprises is in our community. To those who start businesses, I want to say that we want to create an environment where it's even easier to start businesses. To those who have trouble trying to get their businesses financed in the traditional ways, I want to say that we know the problems you have and we feel your pain, and we want to try to create better potential for financing small business than we've seen than the big banks who are still keeping credit away from business startups. We want to see much better systems in place, and I'm anxious to hear about both your experience of that but also your thoughts as to how we might do something about that. We know that this is a government that cares far more about very, very large business, and particularly those who finance it or insure it or take it over and restructure it, than they do about those people who create wealth up and down our country. So we need to ensure that the opportunities to create jobs, to create new companies, to create employment, to create new products, to make our economy vibrant, actually rests far more at the SME end. And we want those opportunities to be spread far and wide so people aren't discriminated against, so people who have good ideas can actually get them up and running, and that is the work that we'll be doing. We know in our economy that if women were enabled to start businesses at the same rate as they do in America, then there'd be over £60 billion more that actually contributed to our economy. So we've got to deal with things like the female entrepreneurs gap. We've got to ensure that those people from black and Asian minority ethnic communities can start businesses and get proper support. And more than anything, we've got to ensure in the policy that we develop that those who want to forge their own opportunities in life are helped rather than hindered by public policy, and that is what the next Labour government will do. So I know that you've got some Cobra beer going. I know that there are Subway sandwiches, and I don't know how on earth you managed to sort that one out. They don't usually allow that sort of thing in here. So enjoy these unique opportunities, but more than anything, please ensure that your ideas, your thoughts, your views on public policy are fed via Bill and me into our policy making process, so that we know come the next election that we will have an exciting and vibrant offer to SMEs in our economy, because we know that you only get real prosperity with the Labour government. Thanks very much.
Thanks very much, Angela. And as Angela said, it is only Labour that really is on the side of small businesses. I ran my own small business for 15 years, and I know what it was like under Tory and under Labour governments, and it's definitely better for business when there's a Labour government in. You only have to look at these daft ideas of having quarterly reporting. My wife, who still runs a business, she just cannot believe that she's going to have to file her tax returns every 3 months, the way the Tories are setting out. And you're all familiar with the many other changes that the Tories have put through that really do not help enterprise when it comes to smaller firms. Angela mentioned the Cobra beer and the Subway sandwiches. Now, I think they are actually testament to the powers of Ibrahim in organising this evening's event. The Subway sandwiches are courtesy of one of our sponsors, who's a Subway franchisee. And I'm sure Ibrahim will tell us more there. And he's even managed to get Lord Billamora to sponsor us by providing the Cobra beer as well, which isn't a bad effort. He's a crossbencher in the House of Lords. Some might suggest that he's not exactly a natural Labour sympathiser, so it shows just what an impressive entrepreneur Ibrahim is. I will allow him to tell you his own story, but he runs the fabulous Troyer restaurant just over the river from here. Parliamentarians have enjoyed his hospitality on a number of times over the years, and I'm sure we will again, and I would encourage you all to do the same. There we are, that's enough from me, but what I'm going to do is ask Ibrahim to talk about why SME4LABOUR was set up. Possibly the fact that you've all answered in such big numbers means that question has already been answered very, very strongly. But Ibrahim, thank you for organising this evening, and I look forward to hearing what you've got to say. Thank you. Well, I think they were...
Okay, we have to do it. Good evening, friends. I'm Ibrahim Douglas. I'd like to welcome you all to the launch of SME4LABOUR. What a great attendance. It's already been mentioned several times. We are delighted so many of you could be here tonight. I want to begin by thanking Bill Esterson MP for hosting this event. Right Honourable Jeremy Corbyn and Right Honourable Tom Watson MP, John McDonnell MP, Angela Eagle MP. Jeremy Corbyn and John McDonnell will be joining us shortly, I think. Tom is already here. All are great supporters of small business. And I know there are many other Labour colleagues here tonight. I think Ian McNichol, our General Secretary, is also here tonight. And I want to welcome members of SME4LABOUR and potential future members of SME4LABOUR. You can all sign up online via SME4LABOUR.org. And you all thought drinks were free, I think. You've got to sign up, hopefully. I want to talk for just a few minutes about why SME4LABOUR was formed, what we stand for, and what we want to do. SME stands for small and medium-sized enterprises. Although we sound small, we're actually a big part of the UK economy. 50% of the whole economy, of 5.4 million businesses, 99% are SMEs, 95% are micro businesses. Employ 15.6 million people. Imagine, just 40% of that 15.6 million are potential labour voters. That's a lot of people not represented in our movement until now. For myself, Sonny Leong, Mike Josling, Stephen Alambritis, David Tarbuck, and all those that have helped, this is why we formed SME4LABOUR. I've been the owner of an SME for 12 years. I was Labour 12 years ago, and I am Labour now. And I'm sick of hearing the right-wing media say Labour is anti-business. As a business owner, let me tell you, that's absolute rubbish. I've seen how much Labour MPs value businesses in their constituencies. Why wouldn't they? Businesses create jobs, run festivals and school competitions, reinvest in their communities. But there's a party in government that doesn't value the community. A party that loves big business, whether they pay tax here or not. It's a great Labour tradition to speak for people who don't have a voice. So, in SME4LABOUR, we are going to speak up for the businesses that don't have big marketing budgets. Don't put their monies in tax havens. I've checked with everyone. Nobody here puts their monies away from tax havens. Don't believe in 0 hours contracts. These are our values. They are Labour values. And this is why we are proud to be Labour. It's hard to run your own business. We rely on family, friends, building societies, unions, the community. So we are going to help the self-employed and entrepreneurs, start-ups and micro-businesses, small businesses to expand and employ more people, medium-sized enterprises to grow even bigger, all the time in a spirit of fairness and helping each other. This is what SME4LABOUR stands for. I've talked about why we were formed and what we stand for. I'd like to close by stating what we want to do. Because as self-employed people, we like to do things. We're not fond of sleeping. If we stand still, we tend to fall over. So we are launching SME4LABOUR by electing an executive committee on Friday. Then we are going to go out and meet people, find out the key issues facing self-employed people and SMEs. Then we are going to build a campaign for change. And hopefully, we'll become an affiliated body of the Labour Party. We want to be part of the Labour family. I hope Tom, Jeremy, and others will be helping us on that. Which brings us back to why we are here tonight. To all the MPs and party colleagues, we need your help. We need every CLP to know who we are. So we want every Labour MP and councillor to talk to the SMEs in their constituencies and wards. And we want the party to help us organize a conference for SMEs. Help us build a network across the country. Help us convince them that it's Labour that represents them. It's Labour that can help them. I guarantee they would love to hear from you. Maybe one or two might join SME4LABOUR and help us campaign for a Labour government in 2020. Thank you. Thank you very much for listening. And now, I'd like to invite the leader of our party, Jeremy Corbyn, who, during his election, promised to stand up for small businesses, independent entrepreneurs, and the growing number of enterprises that want to cooperate and innovate for the public good. Jeremy Corbyn, leader of Labour Party.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the open spaces of the Jubilee Room. Ibrahim, thank you very much for that. Ibrahim and I know each other a long time, go back a long way, and he's somebody that works incredibly hard in running a business, but also giving a lot of people jobs and opportunity, and also making sure there's a good community payback. And I think the formation of this group within the Labour Party is a very important step forward, and I look forward to working with you, but also the research that you can bring to the subject, the issues you can bring to the subject, and the way in which we can ensure there's good employment practices as well as a growth in this particular sector. As Ibrahim kindly said, during my own leadership campaign for the election, I produced 13 different policy statements, all of which were policy consultation ideas, including a very important one on the role of small and medium-sized businesses in the development of the economy of this country. And I put that forward for a reason, in that I fully understand the diversity of the economy of this country, the need for us to work with all sections of that in order to bring about some degree of greater justice and equality within our society. I made a quite long speech on Saturday to the Fabian Society, in which I was trying to set out the core value for our party, and that is the grotesque levels of unfairness and inequality that exist in Britain, that the Tories are promoting in all sections, and it's something we exist to go in absolutely the opposite direction, and I intend to stick to this theme for a very long time to come, so that by the time we do come round to an election in 2020, the whole community will be very well aware of the core message of Labour, which is real equality of opportunity for everybody and real equality within our society, not the grotesque levels of inequality that we have at the present time. That is not to be anti-business, that is to be pro-good policies that bring people together and bring about the fairer and just society that Labour exists to achieve. So we're the party that wants small businesses to make a real role in the economy. They employ more than 14 million people. I'm concerned, as our party is concerned, about the treatment of small and medium enterprises by the banks, routinely refusing necessary loans, often refusing necessary lines of credit, often making it very difficult to expand beyond a very small stage, and thus often having to sell out to a purchaser who is often a very big multinational enterprise rather than developing on its own. Spent a very interesting day in Swansea recently at the university there, talking about the high-tech businesses that had been developed as an offshoot from the university. Many of them were telling me the difficulties they had extending beyond being a small entrepreneurial high-tech business into moving into something bigger, couldn't raise the capital necessary to do so, and therefore were swallowed up by somebody else. Surely in an innovative economy, in an innovative society, we can do rather better than that. So there's no contradiction in my mind about supporting small and medium-sized enterprises and being pro-worker, pro-workers' rights and pro-decent wages. We want people to be properly paid, properly employed in successful businesses. That surely is something that we can all agree on. What we are concerned about is the excesses of many multinational businesses and the systematic way in which very big enterprises seem to manage to pay less tax than smaller enterprises. I am a religious supporter of local coffee shops in my own constituency. Why? Because I like them. Why? Because I know most of the people that work in them and I enjoy their company. Why? Because I also know all of them pay their rates, pay their business rate, pay their taxes and pay their workers properly. That is why I want to support those particular businesses. Surely there's a message there for all of us. And so when it comes up to criticism of events such as the way in which Sports Direct is behaving, people would say, well, you've criticised Sports Direct. That makes you anti-business. No, it doesn't. It makes all of us anti-abuse of people working in Sports Direct or those people that are dependent on Sports Direct. And so there are a number of issues that we need to look at. One is, why is the government burdening small businesses with online quarterly reporting? All businesses need a level playing field on banking and on taxation. We also have to recognise the huge increase in the number of self-employed people in Britain, not just in small businesses. I look at it this way, and I said so in my own conference speech, that self-employed people are a growing group within our workforce across the whole country. They can be just as easily exploited as somebody working for a straight employer. Self-employed people are often quite badly treated. They need to have equal access to all the benefits of the welfare state and the benefit system, and I want to make sure they do get that equal access in the future so that we treat self-employed workers with respect and the needs that they have. What I also want to look at, and we're looking at this in the sense of a review of workers' rights, which Ian Lavery is leading, the role of self-employed workers in that and the rights they have. But I also want to look at, with small and medium-sized enterprises, the issue of training and opportunities to get involved with apprenticeships and courses, how that can be best funded, how that can be best worked out with local colleges so that those companies also play a part in training the workforce of the future and giving opportunities for young people in the future to develop in those kind of areas. So we want to support what you're saying and doing here tonight. I want to work with you to see what research you can bring out on the quality of employment, the opportunities for employment, and above all, any regulatory changes that are needed in the way in which banks operate, the way in which local authorities operate, the way in which government operates. Because 14 million people working in those areas are a very, very important part of our society. We want to reach out to those people. We want to reach out to ensure decent working conditions, successful businesses, decent levels of pay, decent levels of training, and above all, support those that are so innovative, which will bring about the industrial renaissance we all want to see in Britain, where we move from being an concentrated society on the service sector and a much greater concentration on what we're good at, which is high-tech manufacturing, innovation, and all the skills that go with that. And so this group being formed within the party is a very important way forward. I welcome what you've done here today. I welcome what Ibrahim has said today, and I wish the group well and look forward, as do all of the Shadow Cabinet and all of our Shadow teams, in working with you to ensure that this group becomes an important part of Labour policy making in the future. Thank you very much for inviting me today.
This really is a warm welcome. And Ibrahim, Sonny, when you said you were inviting representatives of small and medium-sized enterprises to the House of Commons, I didn't realise you were inviting representatives of every small and medium-sized enterprise. You know, I'd just like to say thank you for coming tonight and being part of what I think is going to be a vital component of our conversation we have with voters between now and the general election 2020. You know, 5 million private enterprises in Britain, employing 25 million people, 99% of those small SMEs. The vast majority of those are sort of what I call the 0 to 9ers, the micro businesses. You are the future frontiers of our productive economy. And it's very important for a party like ours to make sure that we have very strong transmission belts between SMEs and our policymakers. That's why Bill and Angela are doing such a good job. That's why Jeremy and I are personally committed to hearing what SMEs have got to say. You know, I represent a seat that bashes metal and does engineering in West Bromwich. We've got lots of SMEs. They're always complaining to me about the banks and the insurance companies. And that they need a voice. They need a voice both within our party and within government. And yet I think perhaps as in the week we're discussing some of the things we could have done better at the general election, one of the things I know is that the language we use, and we were right to challenge those vested interests at the last election. But there's, I've said this in every meeting I did in the deputy leadership election, it's not what you say on the doorstep that matters, it's what people hear on the doorstep. And I think that small businesses in Britain were not hearing that we were for them. And so you are going to help us get that language right, get the policies right, make sure that we can go into the general election in 2020 honestly saying on every doorstep that Labour is the party of small and medium-sized enterprises. So I thank you. We've got a lot of work to do. This is the start of it, but we're on a journey together, and I hope that you can make this new enterprise a great success. Thank you.
It's getting really hot in here for the right reason. Welcome everybody, thanks for coming along. As everyone said, we're in the midst of our policy review now. Can I say from the Treasury team, I'll cheer you up. We're also doing a review of the way the banks treat SMEs. What we're trying to do is make sure there's basic levels of fairness in the way banks treat SMEs in the future. And of course we're engaging in the banks in that discussion with the FCA, and also we'll be going on to the Financial Ombudsman as well, because of the number of cases that are now being thrown at us, where, to be frank, SMEs have been in some instances, to be frank, discriminated against, but not treated particularly effectively and efficiently. And we want to try and see whether or not we can bring forward some form of additional code of conduct in the way that banks treat SMEs, particularly those who are looking for longer term investments, when, to be frank, their securities may not be solid initially, but need a bit of a step up to get onto the next stage of development. And in that way, we think we can create the high-skilled, high-paid jobs that we need for our economy, because we keep saying it, our economic growth is based upon the dynamism of small and medium-sized enterprises like your own. They're the ones that often produce the services and the goods that others then can profit from, particularly as they develop them, linked up, often many of you with educational establishments as well. So again, I just want to echo, thanks for all that you're doing. Labour is going to prove its credentials to you in relation to SMEs over this coming period. The most important thing, though, we want you to engage with us in the discussion of our new ideas and how we go forward. Every time we develop a policy, we want it rigorously tested on the basis of your practical experience. We believe that there's been a breakdown in the line of communication from the shop floor, from the shops to businesses, all the way up to government. And that's a breakdown that particularly this government is engendered. When we go back into government, we want to make sure you're having a say not just in the development of our policies, but their implementation as well. So thanks for coming thanks for coming tonight. It will be a bigger room next time we do it, but it just shows it just shows you really the excitement that there is about the development of the policies under our new administration. Thanks a lot for coming along.
That's fine.